Well, I'm going to show you how I sharpen a taper reamer. So I've got a couple of them here, and this one right here is the one that I started out with in the 80s. I got it from Ernie Conover, and I used it for quite a while until I started using this one. So it's got an 11-degree taper on it. It's a little bit too much for me, and that's one of the reasons I went to that. I like the open face on it and how fast it would cut. Here's an old version of it, and I believe it's got about I think this is 11 degree. I think this one is a 8 degree. I like that a lot better, although the one I use is a 6 degree. But I don't use these anymore, but I will show you how I sharpened them real quick, and then we'll get on to the ones that I use, that I know better. So well, first off, just like the spoon bits, you need a relief on the leading edge, and so you can achieve that with a file, running a file right down it at a slight angle, undercutting to where it is relieved and not going to get in the way of that cutting edge. And then the way Dave Sawyer taught me how to do it is I take a one-tooth file, and you make that by taking a triangular file and grinding the teeth off of all three sides and then honing it to where it's just a metal scraper, and it will take a lovely peeling off of this just by holding it right like that. Okay, so you may be able to see this file now and how shiny it is right on the edge there, right on those faces, right on the tip of the file, I mean. And I'm just going to put it right in here. That's it. It should cut really well now. Okay, so let's move on to the reamer I use then. So this is the reamer I've been using since, I think, 96, I believe. And a lot of you are familiar with it. It's got a blade in it that, this one's made out of a compass saw blade. The teeth are filed off of it, and then it's filed to a 45-degree angle with a burr turned on it. And Ali made this. He makes them and sells them, or you can make them yourself. You can find that blade at a junk store for $1, and you know, it's a democratic tool. Anybody can own one. This is another version made by Tim Manny. He makes them and sells them, and both of them are fine tools. I use both of them interchangeably. They're both 6-degree tapers, which I like. I guess a little bit on the history of this tool, since I know the history of this, unlike a lot of the other tools. It was designed by Richard Starr back in probably the early or mid-90s, and Jenny Alexander was working with him on it, and Alexander knew that I was working with the Greenwood Project in Honduras, and I was getting ready to go down and teach how to make a Windsor chair. And I had a dilemma about whether or not to do the tapered joint, because doing the tapered joint would have to introduce a single-use tool like this, and that was expensive, and I wasn't excited about that. But yet straight tenons didn't really work on the legs either. So Alexander calls me up right before I took off, told me he had this new reamer, and he wanted me to try it out, sent it to me. I grabbed it on the way out the door, literally on the way out the door to the plane, and got down there, used it, and I really liked the way that it worked, and started using them from that day forward. And then Ali started making them and selling them, and then, like I said, about a year ago, Tim Manny started making them and selling them. So what I'm going to do is I sharpen them differently because they sharpen them differently, and I sharpen them the way that they do. So the first thing I'll do is, since I'm set up here for Tim's, is I'll sharpen Tim's, and then we'll sharpen Alias. So the blades on these are loose. They just self-center when they're in the hole. So you just slide them right out like that. What Tim does is he's got a 70-degree bevel ground on the side of this, and he tunes up the blade by putting a little 5-degree micro bevel on this, turning a burr, honing it off, and then just getting a sharp edge, but not with a burr on it. So that's the way Tim does that. He does it on a 600 grit sandpaper. So I've got the block right here. Got a 75-degree block, so that ought to put a little 5-degree micro bevel on it. And so let's do that right now. So like I said, I've put a 75-degree bevel here, 600 grit sandpaper, and a few strokes ought to pull up a very small burr. And there it is. Then I can make sure I'm putting even pressure, taking that burr off. So that's it, good and sharp. So this one's ready to go. Slide it back in there. Of course, you do both sides, you know. So I already did the other side. I just showed you one side, and there you go. And so this one works. You know, you just get a little protrusion there of that edge, and with Tim's, you have an adjusting screw back here that you can get it just as aggressive as you want. Okay? All right, now we'll go to the one Alia makes. I'm going to file Alia's. Alia's got about a 45-degree bevel on his, and I'm just going to try to maintain that, or somewhere thereabouts, with this file. So I've got it in the jaws of the vise. Really, I should have probably little wood supports made to where they support it all the way out, and it'd be much easier to do, but then I'd have to make them. So I support it with my fingers. So with my fingers right behind the blade, I'm able to keep it rigid. And then I can look at it and make sure that I'm cutting the whole entire length of the blade. And one more pass and I think I've got it. Okay, and I've already done the other side, so now I'm going to take it out and turn a burr on it. Okay, so get ready to turn the burr. I have the 45-degree bevel pointing down right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn back this false burr and kind of prep. Let's pull it back a little further, right like that, and then that way it's kind of controlled. Okay, so it was referencing off the front of this riser block, and then pulling that metal out a little bit, and also turning that false burr. So I don't prep it. Those of you who've watched the scraper sharpening video, you can see I don't prep it like I do a cabinet scraper. I don't go quite that far. Now I'm going to turn the burr. Now I'm gonna have to turn it with the bevel pointing up, and because this would get in the way if the bevel was down. Okay. Now let's just say that's at a 45-degree angle. Like I said, I don't know it's at a 45-degree angle. I just kind of guessed at it, and it seems to work. Then this you would want at 35 to 40-degree angle, something like that, because you want that burr shooting out like that to where it will grab the wood. So there we go. And let's see if I can get that secured. And that's a nice little burr on that. So this one's ready to go back in the reamer. And so if you want to see the way that I use them, you can go back and look at the chair making videos where I'm tapering the holes in the seat.